This may be my last time. This may be my last time. This may be my last time. It may be my last time. I don't know. In 2001, Dr. Victoria Lynn Schmidt wrote the book, 45 Master Characters, which outlined the 9 stages of the archetypal heroine's journey. This is a true story of my heroine's journey.
I was a lawyer, an idealistic lawyer. I believed in truth, in justice, and integrity. But I found all of that to be an illusion. I believed that judges were fair and impartial. I believed that cops wouldn't lie. I believed that the system was moral. I was naive. A lawyer whose ideals were slowly ripped from her. Maybe I watched too much Perry Mason and Andy Griffith as a child. November 2nd of this year will be 21 years as a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. However, I no longer practice law anymore. I loved practicing law. I was a city, county, and state prosecutor. I still have my badge. I love this badge. It meant so much to me to represent the state of Texas. I practice family law, wills and probate, personal injury. I represented people who suffered with mental illnesses in commitment hearings, but my love was criminal defense. I love representing adults and juveniles charged with criminal offenses. I loved trials. I believe I tried over 200 jury and bench trials. I just absolutely loved practicing law. I even ran for judge for County Court at Law number 3 in Bell County, Texas. Well, I ran for judge in a predominantly Republican county. I ran as a Democrat. I didn't win. But as I mentioned, I no longer practice law, and that's because I saw too much and heard too much injustice in the justice system. And I decided to fit in, and that led to some serious mental, emotional, psychological issues. I deluded myself. I saw the system. I didn't like what I saw. I saw how the judges treated my husband. At the time I was married, and my husband was also a lawyer. And they treated him horribly. They treated other black male attorneys horribly. And instead of being courageous, I wasn't. I decided I was going to fit in and not be this angry black woman, but I was angry. I remember I was trying a DWI case with this nurse. Beautiful lady. And I had no evidence. We're not supposed to try cases if we have no evidence. She just stood there in the video and did nothing but cry. That's not enough evidence to convict someone, and especially a nurse. She would have lost her career. And I remember the officer coming to my office the day of trial and saying, I can't identify her. Well, if you can't identify her, why are we going to trial? That's because when you have these attorneys who are also politicians and they run on tough on crime, then that's what they want to maintain. That's what I had to maintain. I was an employee. I didn't have a choice. I told my supervisor, the police officer cannot identify the defendant, cannot identify this lady. I go to the restroom, I come back, my supervisor tells me, you're going to trial. How am I going to trial? The officer can now identify the defendant. I knew in my soul this was not right. So I just prayed and I just said, God, please, please, this lady, she has to be found not guilty. We go to trial, and thank God she was found not guilty, because it would have been a miscarriage of justice. And I would have participated in that because I wasn't strong enough to say, no, I'm not doing this. But I did it anyway because I thought I had no other choice. And I wanted to keep my job. That was one time. Then we had this officer who was making up, fabricating evidence, and we had to dismiss all his DWI cases and still go along like it was okay. It wasn't okay. They didn't fire him. They just uphold these injustices. And then I saw how judges, particularly this one judge, would treat Hispanic defendants and African American defendants, just the racism, constant racism. And then my favorite judge, he's now deceased, Judge Johnson. After I stopped being a prosecutor, I became a defense attorney, and I was representing this kid charged with possession of marijuana. And I was trying the case with one of my colleagues from when I was a prosecutor. So I remember the judge wanted us to meet him in chambers, and he tells the prosecutor, you're going to lose this one because she has the jury in the palm of her hands. We go back into the courtroom, and I'm questioning this witness, and the judge steps in as if he's the prosecutor. The prosecutor doesn't object to what I'm asking, but the judge does. And he just gets on me, and I was warned about this, but I was so naive because I loved this particular judge, and he just ripped my heart apart. I could no longer go back into his courtroom. I no longer respected him. I no longer respected the system, but I went along with it. And my soul was slowly being crushed. I had betrayed myself, not standing up, not saying anything, because I wanted to fit in. Actually, I couldn't reconcile the illusion of this system of justice and truth with the truth. It was about winning elections and manipulating people into believing that they stood for something. It was bullshit. And I couldn't take it anymore because I'd betrayed my soul. The system had betrayed me. And that led to more depression and suicidal ideations. That led to me having to go another way, on another path. I met my husband, then boyfriend, in 1998. I remember he told me that he always wanted to be a monk, but that being a lawyer was a great meal ticket. So we began our spiritual practice. We studied the greats, Osho, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra. We studied Buddhism. We practiced Buddhism. Marianne Williamson, Eckhart Tolle, all the greats, Krishnamurti. We immersed ourselves in spirituality. So I remember he bought us both these Sanskrit mantras, and for 60 days I would chant the Gayatri mantra. And if you have heard of the Gayatri mantra, you know how powerful it is. And I began to just change, transform quickly. I realized that my husband, who was my second spiritual teacher, my mama was my first spiritual teacher. I realized that our life soul contract was complete. I had to move on. I wanted to grow and expand more. So we got a divorce. I realized that I was gay. I sold my houses. At the time, we had 3, and I think I sold 2 of the houses and moved into this apartment, practicing law with my best friend, also my lover, and then it fell apart. We fell apart. I became depressed and suicidal, so I happened to be on the computer because I knew I needed help. And Spirit directed me to the Sedona Mago retreat. This was in 2012. I came, I believe, in September, October, and they taught me how to breathe. We don't breathe properly, so they taught me breathing meditation, walking meditation, sleeping meditation, eating meditation, but most of all, meridian tapping, known now as EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques and Tapping, which helped to put me back together again and save my life. And I remember I was driving around Sedona and I went to Bell Rock and I walked as far as I was allowed to go, and I stood there, on top of Bell Rock, and I declared, one day I'm gonna live here. So I go back to Texas, and there was this conference that Hay House Publishing used to organize and put on around the country and around the world. It was I Can Do It, the I Can Do It conference. It was going to be in Austin at the Bass Concert Hall. I went there, and Doreen Virtue was speaking, and she said, go home, ask Archangel Michael what your life purpose is. So that night, before I went to bed, I said, Archangel Michael, what is my life purpose? Tell me in my dream. Make it vivid, like a huge neon sign, so I will know it's you, and this is my life purpose. Well, I had created this vision board, and one part of the section of the vision board, I had cut out from magazines words, healing work. And that night in my dream, I saw Archangel Michael showed me that part of my vision board. Healing, healer, healing work. I didn't know what that meant. Healing work, healer. So I'm the type of person, when Spirit tells me something, when I'm guided to do something, I do it. So I remember that was the weekend of the I Can Do It conference in Austin. And I went Saturday and Sunday. Well, come Monday, I had to sit with it. By Wednesday, I was at the courthouse telling the judges I was no longer going to practice law. I was going to wind down my practice. I took my name off of the attorney list. Rumor got around the courthouse that I was going into aromatherapy. I don't know where they got that. So I did that, and I signed up to learn Reiki. I became a Reiki master. I became a professional certified life coach. And then I remembered tapping. I don't know how I found my way to EFT, because I had forgotten the meridian tapping, but I did. And I took level 1 and 2. There are 3 levels of tapping. I took level 1 and 2, and now I'm a level 2 EFT tapping practitioner. I was on this road, this new spiritual road, winding down my law practice, moving into becoming who knows what. I was doing healing work. I had my own business, Healing Pathways. Part of my law office was Healing Pathways. I remember I had a grand opening and people came and because they wanted to know about Reiki in Temple, Texas. It was a strange time, but I got so much flack. I was going through so much doubt. Am I doing the right thing? I wasn't making much money with the healing work. My mama, she had doubts and she would tell me, Tyffany, you need to practice law. My ex-husband, law is a great meal ticket. I had all these in my head. People were asking me, well, what are you going to do? So I had my doubts, but I stayed on my journey, trying to figure it out. I didn't know what else to do, but the depression was coming back slowly and the suicidal ideations, because I had identified with being a lawyer. I thought that's all I was. I was a lawyer. So what do? It began. The darkness began. In his book, Soulcraft, Bill Plotkin discusses that when the ego is developed, when it's ripe, the soul comes in and takes over. The soul pulls you down into the descent, into the darkness. That's what happened to me. From the end of 2013 to January of 2015, I was drowning in a pool of fear, constant fear, anxiety, worry, so much so that I attracted to me people who scammed me. I decided it was time to move back home to Austin, and I rented an apartment, Edge Creek Apartments. I had a bed, I had a kitchen table. That was in March of 2014. May, somehow, in a haze, in the darkness and confusion, I bought a 2011 white Audi. By October, the Audi had been repossessed. From May to June, slowly, whatever money that I had was gone.
My law practice had wound down. I wasn't working. I was going through what Stanislav Grof and his wife Christina call a spiritual emergency. But I didn't know what that was. I just knew I was depressed and suicidal. I couldn't pay my rent. I knew the constable would come at some point. In July, I decided to go on a 30-day raw vegan fast. I only went outside to take Chief Justice to potty, and when I'd go outside, the sun would be so bright. I would cover my eyes. Then I realized that I could hear trees, one-leggeds talking. They told me that they were sad because of humanity, because of humans. Then that day came, knocking at the door, a constable, because I'd been hiding out in my apartment knowing that he or she would come with the pleadings, the paperwork from the apartment complex to evict me. I opened the door. You have now been served. My court date, September 17, 2014. Well, court date came. The apartment complex, lawyer, representative didn't show up. Judge dismissed the case. I moved into my sister's one-bedroom apartment with her. I'd lost 32 pounds. I'd lost friends. My family was worried about me. My mother, my sister, Rashina, my niece, Tracy, they would give me money. But I was gone. I was knee-deep into the descent, into the darkness. And then more unconsciousness.
In January of 2015, the bathtub in my sister's apartment where I lived was being repaired. We were told that we wouldn't be able to use the bathtub for 2 days. I decided to go stay at my mama's house. I thought this would be the perfect opportunity for me to kill myself. No one knew that I was experiencing the dark night of the soul. I had decided to take rat poison. Why did I want to kill myself? I believed I didn't matter to anyone in the world. My mind had convinced me that I was useless. If I didn't matter, then there was no reason for me to be alive. On that transformative day in 2015, I called my best friend San to tell her goodbye. That I was going to kill myself because I didn't matter. As I put my cell phone down on the nightstand next to my mama's bed, I picked up the rat poison. At that moment, I heard a ting on my phone. Something made me check my phone, a feeling, a spark of light within, something. It was Google letting me know that I had a new Eckhart Tolle video. Again, something that I can't explain. Something within me made me watch the video. Eckhart discussed how we are not our personal identities. We are greater than what we do and who we are. He said that when our belief of who we are doesn't align with reality, we fall into darkness and our pain body feels separate from its creator and we lose consciousness. Holy shit. This was me. I resonated with what he was saying. I was having an unconscious moment. Did you have any idea what I was going through or what I was trying to do?
I didn't think that you was not trying to help yourself, but you was somewhere else on a different path than what the world was on. The world was on, I gotta get up in the morning and I gotta go to work. I gotta pay my bills and I gotta do this. But your path was somewhere else that wasn't bad or anything. It was just somewhere else. And it wasn't for us to understand as your family or as myself. It was just for me to accept.
My spiritual career seemed or appeared to be going well. Well, it wasn't profitable, but it was going well. I began working at metaphysical fairs, offering Reiki and EFT tapping sessions. My book had been published, my first book, Tap That, by Balboa Press, a division of Hay House, so I could sell my book. Everything seemed to be going seemingly well. I was invited to speak at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in Brisbane, Australia. My best friend San is Australian, and she encouraged me to submit a presentation, a proposal, and it was accepted. So I was like, how am I going to get to Brisbane, Australia? I had no money, still homeless. So I waited to the last minute and I just told my best friend my circumstances, and she paid for my trip to Australia. I just could not believe this journey I was on, but I was still, as I mentioned, homeless, living in my sister's one-bedroom apartment. My sister and my mother were financially supporting me. I remember my mother telling me once, Tyffany, it's not your sister's responsibility to take care of you. And she was right. It was my responsibility. And I was struggling. I was in muddy water and didn't know how to see through the mud. So, of course, I was ashamed. I had doubts. Again, do I go back practicing law? I didn't know what to do. Do I stay on this path? Do I do something else? I was just so confused about what to do and who could help me. But I knew Spirit would guide me and show me the way. I knew there was a reason why I was on this path, why it happened the way it happened. But at the same time, I was scared, ashamed, had doubts, clueless, afraid of the unknown, afraid of the uncharted waters. But I stuck with it. I was going through some kind of spiritual awakening, that I was being led by God. Do you believe that's possible?
Yes, God is a miracle worker. Your eyes that you see with do not have to be the same eyes that everyone else see with. Your ears that you hear with I might not hear what you hear. So it's your hearing. So in saying that, just because you were somewhere else, I didn't have to be there, because I might not have had the same light shining through me as you had shining through you, to see and hear and feel and understand what you were doing.
So I'm still living with my sister Rashina. Then I hear from my youngest sister Fatima that the family had gotten together to decide whether or not to do an intervention. So I also learned that my mama called my best friend, San, in Australia to, I don't know, get her to talk to me or have me move to Australia with her. It just wasn't going well. My mother told me I get a job, Tyffany, so I started working with the temp agency, doing substitute teaching at a charter school. And then I see this ad that this holistic fair, the Osmic City Expo Holistic Fair, would be in Austin at the Palmer Auditorium. And I thought, this is my big break for my spiritual business and also my speaking career. I'd been a public speaker and been speaking since 2004. And I'm like, okay, now I'm an international speaker because I spoke in Australia. This will be great. So I submit a proposal to speak, and it's accepted. And my best friend Lisa, she took me to the event, and I remember walking in the room at the Palmer Auditorium space, and all these chairs and tables lined up with vendors, and I'm thinking, this is going to be great. My friends in the audience, I'm thinking, okay, other people are going to come. I told family, I told friends, my friends told me they were coming, they don't show up. So I'm disappointed. I'm embarrassed. Spirit told me I didn't listen. I had to do this. My will got me in this mess. This was like my last ditch effort. Do I stay in Austin? What do I do? I'm confused. Well, it didn't work. I knew I had to leave Austin. Where do I go? I had to leave. Who's going to help me? I have no money. But I knew I had to follow my guidance. Spirit told me to contact Louise. We met at the Oneness Metaphysical Fair in San Antonio. She was like this 70-year-old, beautiful, wise elder from, I believe, Liberia. She was an intuitive who read for royalty and statesmen, politicians in her country. So I contacted her. I told her, I'm confused. I need your help. I'm desperate. I'm homeless. I don't have any money. I need to leave Austin. I know I'm not in alignment with Austin. I told her that I was doing substitute teaching and that when I got paid, I could give her $20, but please help me. And she said, okay, she would. So she gave me a reading. She said, I see your energy in 6 places on the planet. San Antonio, Arizona, London, Australia, Colorado, and New Mexico. Okay, so I had to think about that because I would be leaving. How would I get there? I don't know, but I knew I had to leave, and I would be leaving my family, friends, comfort, all that was familiar to me, my last chance if I wanted to go back and practice law. I would be leaving that since I'm only licensed in Texas. But I had to leave. And I needed some help. So I got some help from Louise, my mother, who was not happy, but I'm her daughter. My stepdad, who lived in Baltimore, I told him what was going on, and he sent me $250. I just really appreciate it. I had to sell so much of my stuff to prepare. I was a vegan at the time, so I said, okay, I'm going to expand my vegan lifestyle, which means I'm going to get rid of any leather that I owned. I took clothes I couldn't wear because I had lost so much weight. My sister will laugh because she took me shopping at Gap Kids. I had lost 32 pounds and I was wearing kids' clothes. But one hiccup, I didn't have a car because, as I said before, my Audi, I had a 2011 Audi that was repossessed. So I needed a car. So my mother buys me Dakota for $800, a 1993 Dodge Dakota. And I named her Dakota. So she bought me that. So now I had some wheels to leave Austin, but still where? Out of those 6 places, where would I go?
Only thing that I knew was that you was my sister, and that was what I was supposed to do. So your hardship was my hardship because, I don't know, we were sisters, and that's all that mattered. I don't care if whatever you was going through was good or bad or anything, but it didn't even matter to me. If you said you needed something, that just was the bottom line of it. You needed something, no questions asked, period, and nobody better not ask me about it.
So I remember I had just gotten out of the shower and I was in my sister's bedroom. I turned around and looked at myself in this huge mirror, and I said, Spirit, from now on, I will only listen to your voice. I will only follow your voice. Where am I to go? Louise had given me 6 places. So I went over the 6 choices. San Antonio. I knew not San Antonio because I had spoken there a couple of times and it just didn't feel right for me. I didn't feel I had the support there. Colorado, too cold. Not moving to Colorado. Australia, I would love to move to Australia, but it wasn't the right time. London, no, too cold. Arizona, I told Louise I would never live in Arizona. My ex-law partner lives in Arizona. As she told me, I see your energy prominently in New Mexico. And then she said something. She said, you're not supposed to rent. You're supposed to own a home. And it's going to be a place where there are these lava-looking rocks, these red rocks, like mountains. So I thought, okay, mountains. It has to be New Mexico. I'd been to Albuquerque. It was kind of too slow, but maybe Santa Fe. Maybe those red rocks are in Santa Fe. I would love to live in Santa Fe. Spirit, where? Where, Spirit, where? I heard clearly, New Mexico. So I went on Facebook. I posted, I'm moving to New Mexico. A friend of mine who was also a colleague of mine at the Bell County Attorney's Office contacted me and said, I have a half-sister, Cindy, who lives in Tejedas, New Mexico. I knew this is a breadcrumb. I'm supposed to go to Tejedas. I left November 17, 2015. I am headed out of town, my hometown of Austin, Texas, to move to New Mexico. Why is that important? It's important because I am leaving what is seemingly security, which is an illusion, comfort, which is an illusion, to go to a place that's new, unknown to me. Why? Because I'm taking responsibility of my life, my joy, my happiness. And it's never too late. Next month, I'll be 48 years old, and I'm still taking risks, still being bold. Why? Because we have this one lifetime. I remember that night, it was so late, midnight. I don't know what time it was. It was late. I was tired of driving. And I see a Walmart. I take that exit in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I thought, oh, wow, this is awesome. Truth or Consequences. So I knew this was it for me. So I sleep in that Walmart, but I can't really sleep. I'm with my master teacher, my love, Chief Justice. It's cold. I decide to get to Tejedas. It's about 2-3 a.m. in the morning, and I drive up into Cindy and Jeff's driveway. They're there waiting for me. I get out with Justice, and Cindy gives me this hug, and I'm like, oh, I'm home. I made it. Good morning, everyone. If you're wondering, yes, I made it. I made it to Tejedas at about 2:30 this morning and woke up and so happy to be here. The energy is great. As you can see behind me, snow. Definitely not Texas, but it feels good. I'm happy to be here. And again, thank you all for your love and support. I'm there for 6 weeks. Things start happening. Justice becomes, he doesn't want to eat. He becomes so lethargic. I don't know if it's the elevation. Underneath my eyes, it just gets so dark. It was late December. 3:56 a.m. in the morning, I remember, because I looked at the clock. I hear, go to Phoenix. I'm half asleep. Go to Phoenix? But I don't want to go there. So, no, Spirit. I go back to sleep. I wake up. I'm like, Spirit, go to Phoenix. Yes. Then I hear church, spiritual church. And I remember, oh, the spiritualist church in Austin. Okay, I spoke there a number of times and went there for services. Maybe there's a spiritualist church in Phoenix. Ding. Okay, Spirit's laughing at me. So I Google spiritualist churches in Phoenix. There are 2. So I asked Spirit, which one? I hear, that one. Which one, Spirit? That one. So I chose one. It was that one. The Reverend Dr. Norma Jean Turner. I email her. Tell her I'm coming there. I'm on a spiritual journey, a spiritual quest, being guided by Spirit. I've been guided to move to Phoenix. I don't hear from her in 3 days, so I figure, okay, whatever. I arrived in Phoenix, Arizona on January 4th, 2016. I had $200 in my pocket. That's because before I left Tejedas, my mother deposited $200 in my bank account. So when I arrived in Phoenix, I stayed in this hotel west of here on 27th Avenue, a couple of miles from where I'm standing. And I stayed there for 2 nights. But as food Money started running out because I needed to pay for this or that. So I moved to another hotel. I guess you would call it a half-a-star hotel on McDowell Road. I stayed there one night because I was out of money. And then I came here, the Deer Valley Community Center. There were 2 vans, City of Phoenix vans. And so I pulled and parked in between those vans because it was safe. I'd get up in the morning and go down to Bell Road to the Walmart to clean up. And we'd mill around and return here. Well, one night, it was really, really cold. I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, Spirit, you have to find us a place to stay, someplace where justice can stay. I'd been in contact with Reverend Dr. Norma Turner, who's the minister at the Spiritualist Living Center. So Norma and Louise had a bedroom, and Louise said, well, you can stay in the bedroom for $500. And I said, I don't have $500, I'm homeless. And then she says, well, the Reverend Dr. Norma Jean Turner has one job here, washing dishes. She doesn't like to wash dishes. How about you wash dishes in exchange for the room? I'm like, as long as my baby, Chief Justice, can stay, then yes. So we were allowed to stay there. Come March, I hear, go to Sedona. I don't want to go to Sedona. I did, but it was too soon. I was exhausted. Chief Justice was exhausted. So I knew I was being guided to Sedona. I really didn't remember what I had said on Bell Rock until much later, but I remembered Sedona was beautiful, but I needed some time. So Spirit told me to leave July 1st. I was ready by then. I'd gotten confirmation in so many ways to go to Sedona. So I packed up my truck. We landed in Oak Creek, stayed in a parking lot for a night, and then came into Sedona. For 2 weeks, I slept in the parking lot of the Safeway strip mall, right in front of the Remax real estate office. I remember one night I saw this huge javelina. I was like, oh my God. But I would sleep there and then move around 8 and park in front of the Safeway. I'd go to the Starbucks on 89A, brush my teeth and clean up. I did that for 2 weeks, and then I headed into the National Forest. You get 14 days there, but no one ever checked. But I moved here and there, 525 over to 869 or whatever it is. I just kept moving. 24 days sleeping in the National Forest. I was pissed. I was pissed at Spirit. I remember it was 5 a.m. I got out of my truck and I'm like, Spirit, I left my law practice. I'm homeless. I have no money. I'm hungry. You better find me a place to stay or I'm going back to Texas. And I heard, lift your skirt and show the world. I knew exactly what it meant. It was time for me to let go of vanity. It's time for me to let go of this illusion of this person I thought I was and show people on Facebook, the lawyers and the judges and the friends that were my Facebook friends, that I was homeless. So I took some pictures of me and sleeping in my truck in the forest, and I posted those pictures on Facebook. Within 24 hours, people I had helped, clients who saw this, they contact me. do you still have a bank in Texas? I did. I'm going to put some money in your bank because you helped my son. You represented him. And we couldn't pay you. A friend of mine, singer-songwriter, she contacted me. I know someone. She's a lesbian. She's from Austin. She lives in Cottonwood. I contacted her. She wants to meet you. She'll give you a place to stay. People were helping me. My mother had sent me, I think, $50 because it costs $40 to get a membership at the Cottonwood Community Center where I could work out and take a shower. So Justice and I would just go there for those 24 days. That night, after I had this come to Jesus talk with Spirit, I pulled up in this driveway, and standing out there with her arms open was Elaine. She gave me this hug, and Chief Justice, she took us in her home. She allowed us to stay there. I learned about the Sedona Food Bank. I started getting food from the food bank. Elaine would buy me food occasionally. I started painting because Spirit told me, you're an artist, you're a painter. By that time, I was working on my 5th book. I was productive while I was homeless. Spirit and I wrote a book of poetry in 2 weeks. I had my children's tapping book, Tap Tap. Tracy's Hair God made it special. I'd written a book, Healing the Death Trauma. I was speaking even though I was homeless. So I lived with Elaine for 8 months. And it came time for us to leave. Elaine wanted to put her house up on Airbnb. I didn't know where we would go. Go back to Phoenix, go back to the National Forest. I didn't want to go back to Phoenix. So we went to the National Forest. And we stayed there for 2 weeks. It was cold at night. But I get this call from Louise in Phoenix, and she says, you have to come back and help me. You have to help us move. I can't walk. I'm in this wheelchair, and we have to move. So at least we had a place to go stay. And I could help Norma and Louise because they had helped me tremendously. I didn't know what I was going to do in Phoenix, but there I was. I had my time in Sedona, and I thought, is that it? Is that it? "2018 was a big shift. It was my return to a new world. I'd been working for a temp agency, and they got me a 6-month assignment. I was able to save money to buy a car because I had to sell Dakota for food and clothes. So I saved $2,100 to buy a 2005 Honda LX. Blue Girl is what I called her. So everything is going well. Then I get this idea to do a workshop on the shadow work, understanding our shadow self. But I didn't have enough experience and knowledge about the shadow, and I only teach what I've experienced. Through Spirit, in a trail of breadcrumbs, I find my way to Sophia University, formerly ITP, Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. I get accepted to Sophia in their master's global program. I graduate with the specialization in, of course, spiritual psychology. Then Spirit, through my dad, provides me with proceeds to buy my dream car. Since 2015, I'd been taking photos of Subaru Desert Khaki Crosstrack everywhere I went. I have about 50 photos because I was manifesting. I was able to pay $24,000 cash for my magic. That's her name. The red rocks that Louise told me, one day you will live in a place, own a home where there are red rocks. I didn't know what that was, but I found out. Sedona. I had returned to Sedona. I'd been looking for land, and this house just popped up on Google. It was Spirit. $22,000 cash. I bought Fairyland. Spirit told me, you're going to buy a home, you're going to buy Fairyland, and where I live is Fairyland. I get a job as an adjunct professor at Sophia, teaching in the master's program where I graduated. My spiritual business has expanded, and that's because, again, I only listened to Spirit's voice, and Spirit told me last May in a dream, make movies. Make movies, Spirit? What do you mean, make movies? I don't know how to make movies. What kind of movies? Movies about consciousness. Okay. What kind of movies about documentaries? Documentaries for the soul. But I have to go back to school, Spirit. Yes. On my journey, people thought I was insane and crazy. I heard the call. I was on my spiritual journey. I did what most people in the world would never do and cannot do. I released the old peanuts for the new peanuts, following Spirit's voice, going into the unknown, and I returned to a new world as a new person, whole, transformed, complete, doing what I love, happy and free. You know, I'm an 8 life path, and 8 life path is the infinity sign, going from extreme to extreme. That was my spiritual journey. But I'm in great company. Martha Stewart went to prison, 8 life path. Nelson Mandela in prison for 27 years, comes out to be president, 8 life path. You never know what will happen, what can happen when you answer the call.